Welcome back to the Leadership Transition course. In this module, we will look at the topic project management, and we will look at the aspect of project management called process group. Now, the reason why I put this also in this course is that as leaders, we can be people's manager or project managers. And if you're going to be involved in managing projects, then you need to understand two aspects. One is what we talk about now, which is the process group. And in another module, we will talk about the knowledge areas. So basically, when you are going to execute a project, you go following through a number of phases, which is the initiate, the plan, the execute, the control, and the close. So this is more about the work, not so much about the people, but yet the people are part of it. So a project management life cycle or process group is a framework, and it consists of several phases which are distinct, or stages, which are the initiate, plan, execute, control, and close. Simply means that you have to follow through those phases to be able to effectively and efficiently plan and come to a good and successful project closure. And the main things that a project manager looks into when doing this are called the 6 constraints. Well, some people call it triple constraints, where they look mainly to scope, schedule, and budget, which is cost or time. So schedule is still called time, and budget is still called cost. But there are other constraints like resources, and in resources it could also be cost. And you also need to look at risk that comes out of the project, as well as the quality of the product you want. So basically, this is what we call the project life cycle. And it goes from initiation, where you have to perform the process to define the new product, to planning, where you begin to establish the scope of the project. This is important, that the team knows what needs to be done in order to meet the objective. And then in execution, after planning, you start completing the work that you need, getting out deliverables. And while you're initiating, planning, and executing, you are also doing monitoring and control, which means you have to track and review the things that are going on to make sure progress and performance are what you expect. And if not, you make the adequate changes or correction that are needed. This helps in managing any risk and helps you keep the quality, and also make sure there is no scope, script, or deviation. And then when everything is done, you finally close the project activities, and you can disperse your team. And when you do this with a group of people, they have to go through the team stages, in which you have the formation, the storming, the norming, the performing, and then adjournment after closure. So it simply means you need to understand how the framework of a project goes from initiation all the way to close, and with monitoring and control. And take into account what tools you need to have for each phase, and what are the purpose for each. And this is something, as a lead or project manager or project lead, that you have to take into account. And of course, they all bring their values, to the organization. And then you also need to know what are the characteristics of each phase. Like when you're initiating, you're looking at objectives, the project objectives. Project manager will lead the group or the project, and the constraints you are actually looking at, and the authorization you need to define or start the project. In planning, you look at statement of work, project plan, and all kinds of assumptions and constraints and plan update. In executing, you look at the deliverables and changes that happens. And in monitoring and control, you get things like status report or performance reports, and you do change management based on what you see, and issue management to get things in the right direction. And of course, when everything is done, you make sure that things are properly closed. And as a leader or project manager, you have to define all this and make sure there is a plan for all of them at the beginning, especially in the planning phase. So this is something you have to be aware. And to know more about this, you have to follow a full course of project management, which you can look up to learn more about each of this process and what they contain. Thank you.